Okay, let's unpack this. We often talk about stories that, they blend the mundane and the mysterious,
Hmm.
but it's really rare that we get a narrative that feels so complete.
Right. It has a beginning, a middle, and a very real end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It starts with something simple, almost relatable, a long bus ride. Then it escalates into this genuine, documented terror.
And then it culminates tragically in a real-world fatal event.
So today we are diving deep right into that intersection. Our focus is a single, terrifying 6-hour bus ride in Taiwan. It was experienced by a young man we know as Zhu back in September of 2017.
That's absolutely right. And our sources for this deep dive, they're intensely detailed. We're combining Zhu's own minute-by-minute personal account.
Which is chilling.
Oh, it is.
Wow.
And we have the photographic evidence he actually captured during the ride. Plus, there's this rich cultural background on the specific date of his journey, which is crucial.
And the accident reports.
And critically, the official accident reports that followed exactly 1 week later. So the mission here is to go beyond just the spooky story and really extract the documented facts, the cultural insights surrounding what Zhu genuinely believed was an active, violent collision between the living world and the spirit world.
And I think the power of this story really is in its progression. It's not just, I saw a ghost.
No, slow burn.
It is. We need to look at Zhu's very routine journey home. This is a long-haul trip from southern Taiwan up to Taipei, and we need to meticulously track how that initial unexpected isolation he felt, how it just instantly translated into extreme vulnerability, that shift in perception, from feeling lucky to feeling like a target. That's the key to understanding the sheer terror that followed.
Indeed. And the entire premise, it really hinges on that initial setup.
Right.
Zhu, he's a traveler on this massively popular high-frequency route. He boards the bus expecting, the usual chaos and congestion, only to find himself completely alone.
Which is why.
It's a huge anomaly. And that unexpected solitude isn't just a comfort, it becomes this crucial variable that switches the narrative from, like you said, a private luxury to a prime isolation chamber.
Let's get started on that psychological journey, because this 6-hour silence,
Yeah.
it is the foundation of everything that comes next.
Yeah.
So let's set the scene. The day is September 4th, 2017, in southern Taiwan. Zhu is in a rush at the bus station. He's running late, which on this particular route usually means he's going to be fighting for the last middle seat near the back.
And this is a massive journey. We are talking about a 6-hour haul north to Taipei. That's a long time to be uncomfortable.
A very long time. So the expectation is just absolute congestion.
Yeah, this route is a lifeline. It's for commuters, for travelers. It should be packed.
So when Zhu finally gets to the bus, he's just relieved to have made it. But the moment the driver opens the doors, his exhaustion and what he's expecting just clash violently with what he sees.
He walks down that central aisle, bracing himself for the packed rows.
And there's nothing.
Nothing. There's growing disbelief as he realizes he is the only passenger. It is just Zhu and the driver.
I have to interject here because this is the first real red flag that Zhu he misses it.
Totally misses it.
This is not a quiet route. For a major long-haul service to be completely empty at this time of day, that should be setting off alarm bells immediately.
Yeah.
He almost stops to ask the driver, is this the right bus?
Yeah.
Or are we waiting for more people?
And this is where Zhu just sort of engages in this self-deception of convenience.
Right.
The driver shuts the doors, starts the engine, and pulls away without a word. So that confirms, okay, we're leaving. And Zhu, he's fighting that powerful cognitive dissonance, but he doesn't want to ruin his good fortune by questioning it.
He just wants to get home.
Yeah. So he quickly settles on the simple, pleasurable explanation. This is my lucky day. I'm tired. I got a 6-hour nap coming, and I get the whole bus to myself.
He immediately embraced the quiet. He takes a seat near the front, settles in, and he feels genuinely content. He's watching the scenery of southern Taiwan give way to the highway traffic.
And in his own words, the prospect of having a private 6-hour journey where he could stretch out, read, or just enjoy the unexpected peace was, and this is a quote, luxurious.
That sense of comfort, that privilege in the first few hours, it's so essential for measuring the depth of the terror that eventually overturns it all.
Well, and that's a very natural human response, isn't it?
Sure.
When an anomaly benefits you, you rationalize it away. You don't ask why you won the lottery. You just take the money.
That's a good point.
So Zhu suppressed the question of the empty bus and just luxuriated in the peace. He's coasting along, having this wonderful, peaceful, totally self-contained experience. He feels safe because he's in complete control of his environment.
But safety is an illusion on this bus.
It is.
A few hours into the ride, somewhere past the midway point, that bubble just bursts.
Mm-hmm.
While he's enjoying the calm, he hears a woman coughing. It is distinct, it is clear, and it comes from behind him.
Not next to him, not in front.
No, from the empty rows of seats in the back.
And the specificity of that location is so critical. He had scanned the bus repeatedly. He knew with absolute certainty that no one was back there. This sound is physically impossible under these precise conditions.
So the reaction is just visceral, a sudden surge of adrenaline.
Well, yeah, he whips his head around instantly, frantically searching for the source.
And of course.
He sees absolutely nothing and no one.
And I can only imagine that terrifying internal computation. Your senses are telling you something impossible happened, but your knowledge of physical reality is just screaming, there is nothing there.
Right. So the mind immediately goes into overdrive to construct a rational defense mechanism.
So what were the specific things Zhu tried to do to explain away this clear, distinct cough?
Well, he ran through the mechanics of the bus itself.
Okay.
First, he tried to explain it as like an acoustic anomaly. Maybe one of the windows was slightly ajar and the wind rushing past.
Made a weird noise.
Exactly. Created a strange sound, like turbulence, that just happened to mimic a cough. Second, he tried to mistake the source entirely. Perhaps the driver coughed, and the sound echoing down the empty steel body of the bus just fooled Zhu into believing it came from the rear.
So he is actively telling himself, that was a trick of the acoustics, not a woman coughing because there is no woman here.
Yes, he had to force himself to accept the mechanical explanation over the terrifying, unexplained, supernatural one. He forces himself to try and get back to that initial feeling of contentment.
He literally convinces himself it was just a bizarre anomaly.
Nothing to worry about. A slight inconvenience in his otherwise luxurious private ride. And this self-convincing effort, it allows him to finally drift off to sleep again. He attempts to regain that sense of peaceful isolation, completely unaware that his brief moment of slumber is only postponing the genuine, sustained terror that is about to arrive.
It's a classic horror movie setup, isn't it? The protagonist denies the initial, small sign of disturbance.
Only to be overwhelmed when the evidence becomes completely undeniable.
So, Zhu wakes up later. They're well into the dark now, roughly at the halfway point, maybe 3 hours left to Taipei. He checks his phone, and he sees a text waiting for him from the friend he just visited. The friend is just asking how the ride is going.
Right.
So Zhu texts back, maybe a little cocky, boasting about having the entire bus to himself.
And that friend, knowing this specific route, immediately demands evidence. And this external skepticism, it serves as the pivot point for the entire story. The friend responds with something like, "No way, that bus is never not filled with people. You gotta send me proof."
So now Zhu has a task. Document the anomaly of the empty bus, which, ironically, leads him to discover the real horror that's sharing his ride.
He attempts the easy fix first. He opens his phone camera, turns around in the dark, and snaps a photo of the empty seats in the back.
But the lighting is terrible, the flash is weak.
And the picture comes out grainy and blurry. It's useless as evidence for his friend, who would just dismiss it as a dark interior photo.
And this is where his semi-professional background comes in.
Exactly. Because the phone camera failed, he pulls out his dedicated, high-quality digital camera. He knows how to use it. He trusts its optics. He trusts its resolution.
He takes the shot, just intending to capture the empty seats clearly for his friend.
But upon reviewing the image on the camera's high-resolution screen, he immediately thinks something is deeply, profoundly wrong with what he just captured.
This is the moment we need to dwell on. What did he see that made him doubt the photo, and why did he then turn his suspicion onto his own equipment?
What he sees is subtle at first. It's a shape, an odd distortion near the ceiling in the back of the bus.
Okay.
And because he has total faith in his camera, his immediate reaction isn't, "That's a ghost." It's, "Did I bump the lens? Is the setting wrong?"
Right, the rational explanation first.
Always. He immediately checks the camera settings, the lens aperture, everything he possibly can to confirm the camera itself is functioning perfectly, which our sources confirm it was. So this rules out simple technical failure or like glare from the camera body itself.
So now, the fear has a foothold. The camera, his trusted tool of reality, has documented something impossible.
And he transitions from a photographic investigation to a full physical search. He carefully puts the camera down and begins to move down the aisle, and you could just feel the panic starting to set in.
He walks all the way to the back, slowly, then he comes back to the front, searching every single seat.
He's looking into the shadows, checking under the seats, looking for any physical, rational explanation for the anomaly he just saw in his photo.
Oh.
Maybe a coat draped oddly, a piece of equipment, a reflection off the road signs.
Anything.
He finds absolutely nothing. The bus is physically empty, but the photo says otherwise.
He is now completely alone with this terrifying discovery. So he decides, I need to tell my friend about this ghost arm I just saw in the photo, to share the terror, to get advice.
He reaches for his phone, the phone he had just been using moments before with a full battery, and it's completely dead.
Wow.
He presses the power button repeatedly. Nothing. It will not turn back on.
This is the critical moment of complete, total environmental control failure.
His digital lifeline is severed. He is now trapped in a moving metal box, isolated from all outside communication, with visual proof of a haunting in his hands. The external world has been cut off.
He realizes the severity of his situation, the utter vulnerability.
And he knows he has to react. His first thought is to tell the driver, but the immediate practical fear overrides the existential one. Startling the driver might cause a crash, killing them both.
So he's physically trapped, unable to communicate, and knows that the only thing separating him from disaster is the driver's concentration.
His only recourse, as the panic builds, is just silence and prayer. He truly felt alone and utterly trapped, making this decision to internalize the trauma for the next 3 hours rather than risk a physical catastrophe.
But as he begins silently praying, hoping the ordeal will just fade, the sounds start again.
And this time, it is not a single isolated cough.
It is an escalation, a true sensory attack. He hears whispering directly behind him again, but now it's described as sounding like numerous people.
A low, indistinct chorus of voices. It confirms that the isolated sound from earlier was indeed the first sign of a gathering presence.
And immediately following this auditory confirmation of a crowd, the sensory input it ratchets up into the physical realm.
He starts hearing the distinct, unmistakable sound of seats creaking and rocking back and forth.
Oh, that's terrifying.
This isn't just sound. This implies weight, movement, occupation. It sounds, in his words, as if somebody's sitting in them, rocking them back and forth. This cacophony of sounds just intensifies, making the presence of these invisible entities unbearably real.
Let's spend a moment on the sheer psychological weight of this. Zhu is sitting there, rigid with terror, knowing with absolute certainty that the entire back half of the bus is full of unseen occupants who are now whispering and moving around him.
He's too terrified to turn around and look again.
He just keeps praying, but the noise just keeps getting louder, filling that previously luxurious silence with this chaotic, invisible activity.
It's psychological warfare. The isolation has been replaced by overcrowding, but in overcrowding he cannot visually verify. His last hope for sanity, his final anchor to reality, is the driver. He looks up, desperately hoping the driver will flinch, will react, will confirm that Zhu isn't suffering from an acute mental break.
But the driver offers no solace whatsoever.
None. He is completely, totally oblivious. He is focused only on the road ahead, showing zero acknowledgement of the sounds of a crowded, chaotic bus interior.
And that silence from the driver is almost as terrifying as the whispering itself.
Whether the driver genuinely couldn't hear the sounds, or, as we'll discuss later, whether he was actively ignoring them as a matter of routine, it provided zero relief for Zhu.
So, overwhelmed by the constant noises which won't stop despite the physical emptiness, Zhu's final desperate act is just complete, total surrender.
He plugs his ears tight, tucks into a fetal position in his seat, and continues praying for the remaining 3 agonizing hours of the journey until the bus finally pulls into the Taipei destination.
3 hours of sustained mental confinement and sensory overload, trapped in a vehicle with an invisible crowd. That is not just fear. That is psychological trauma.
It's an incredible demonstration of terror-induced endurance. He had 3 hours to just sit with that ghost arm photo, the sounds of occupancy, and the driver's total detachment. He survived by retreating completely inward, prioritizing self-preservation through deliberate disengagement from reality.
The moment the bus stops moving in the Taipei bus station, the nightmare it immediately ceases.
Instantly. The sounds disappear, the bus is totally quiet, totally normal again.
Zhu, relieved beyond measure, unplugs his ears, opens his eyes, and just wants to get off that bus and run home.
But before he can escape, the driver stops him.
The driver's observant. He notices Zhu's physical state.
Yeah, he's sweating profusely, his skin is flushed, he looks like he's just finished running a marathon or survived a major accident. The driver asks, "Hey, are you okay?"
And Zhu almost just says he's fine and bolts, but he stops himself. The experience was too real, too traumatic, and the evidence was too compelling.
He realizes he can't just walk away without an explanation. All the fear, the physical proof, it needs context. And critically, now that the bus is stopped, there is zero risk of startling the driver and causing a crash.
The moment for confession and revelation has arrived.
This is where the documentation takes center stage. Zhu pulls out his camera and shows the driver the photo he took of the back of the bus.
The driver looks confused, so Zhu instructs him to zoom in, focusing specifically on the top half of the photo, near the ceiling in the back.
And what the image reveals is the terrifying centerpiece of this entire event. A huge human arm and hand extending distinctly off the ceiling, clearly reaching down into the bus cabin.
It is a physical manifestation, captured in high-resolution detail.
And here's where we must pause and, like Zhu, attempt to rigorously debunk this image. As an informed listener, you have to ask, is this simply an elaborate distortion? Could it be a reflection?
Right.
And Zhu, having anticipated this, immediately provides his counter-arguments to the driver.
Okay, let's run through Zhu's logic. He claims it couldn't be his own arm reflected, because he was holding the camera, and the camera itself is not visible in the ceiling reflection.
Right, that's a key point.
It couldn't be the driver's arm, because the driver's hands were necessarily on the steering wheel, and the steering wheel or the driver's head were not visible in the reflection of the ceiling in the photo.
And furthermore, the arm appeared bare, had nothing in its hand, and was just reaching or grasping downward, almost possessively.
The technical evidence, while circumstantial, it's compelling enough for Zhu to stand his ground. He tells the driver about the ghost arm photo and the non-stop whispering, the creaking seats, the cacophony of sounds he endured for the final 3 hours of the ride.
He has laid out what he believes is undeniable scientific proof that this vehicle is actively and dangerously haunted.
And this is the moment of expected massive, shocked confirmation. Zhu is anticipating a shared moment of terror, maybe even an agreement to report the bus as unsafe.
Instead, the driver's response is what truly solidifies the chilling nature of this story. It is bone-chillingly calm, almost routine.
This is the part I find almost harder to believe than the ghost arm itself.
It's shocking.
The driver simply hands the camera back and delivers this devastating ultimatum, completely focused on the practical reality of his job.
He looks Zhu directly in the eye and says, "You can't show this photo to anybody. No one can know about what happens on my bus because if they find out, it'll ruin my business."
Let's drill down on the psychology of that statement. That response shifts the entire dynamic from, is this supernatural, to, yes, this is routine and I am actively concealing it for profit. I mean, if I found a ghost arm on my bus, I'd be calling the police or an exorcist, not worrying about third-quarter profits. Isn't that a massive, almost unbelievable hole in the source narrative?
Well, it speaks volumes about the driver's possible psychology. There are, I think, 3 rational interpretations for his calm response, and all of them are pretty dark. 1, cynicism. He has seen the phenomena before, maybe multiple times, and has simply learned to tune it out in favor of his paycheck.
He's just used to it.
2, tacit agreement. He may have made some kind of internal, unspoken truce with the entity or the environment to protect his job.
Right.
And 3, just deep financial desperation. He knows the danger, but the need to maintain his livelihood is greater than the fear of the supernatural.
Regardless of the motivation, the implication is staggering. The driver has been operating a passenger vehicle that he knows is periodically overrun by invisible, aggressive entities.
And he demands Zhu's silence to protect his business.
Zhu, stunned and exhausted, doesn't try to argue or question why the driver would risk people's safety.
No, he just wants out. He agrees to the promise and gets off the bus, taking the photo and the horrifying secret with him, fully intending to keep the secret until self-preservation dictates otherwise. Zhu finally makes it home around midnight, completely exhausted, traumatized, and just reeling from the experience and the driver's chilling demand.
He plugs in his dead phone, which immediately lights up with messages from his friend, still demanding details and that proof photo.
Right. And he is sitting there debating the ethical dilemma of keeping his promise versus saving his own sanity when something outside his window catches his eye.
He looks out and sees people walking down the road, carrying red lanterns.
And this immediately provides the context that Zhu, in his rush and exhaustion, had entirely forgotten. He realizes the date is September 5th.
Which marks the beginning of the Hungry Ghost Festival.
Or Ghost Month in Taiwan, a period of intense spiritual and cultural significance. The people with the red lanterns are clearly participating in the rituals associated with the start of this month. Suddenly, the total isolation on the bus, the whispering entities, the timing, everything clicks into place.
We absolutely have to provide our listener with the deep cultural context here, because this isn't just like Halloween. It's a dedicated annual observance celebrated to honor the dead and, critically, to ensure they are fed and provided for.
It's a massive undertaking involving extensive offerings.
Yeah.
That's right. These offerings include burning what is often referred to as ghost money or joss paper, so the spirits have currency to use during their time on Earth.
Okay.
The core belief is that during this ghost month, the gates of heaven and hell open up, allowing spirits, both benign loved ones and more malevolent, neglected, or angry spirits, to walk the earth alongside the living.
And the key differentiator here is this concept of prevention. If you don't placate the spirits, if you neglect them, they can turn malevolent. They're out, they're hungry, and they need to be treated with caution and respect.
Yes, this period requires extreme adherence to traditional taboos and superstitions to avoid accidental contact. And this cultural context connects directly back to the bus ride and Zhu's perceived luck.
Right.
Zhu quickly realizes that the day he traveled, September 4th, is not just the day before the festival officially begins. It is considered a specific day of heightened danger, perhaps even more dangerous than the month itself.
But why is September 4th, the day before the gates open, so critical and so dangerous?
The superstition dictates that September 4th is the specific day when all the spirits are globally traveling to their assigned locations for Ghost Month. It's a period of massive spiritual movement, chaotic and high traffic, if you will, in the spiritual realm.
So it's like a spiritual rush hour.
Exactly. And traditional belief holds that it is incredibly dangerous for the living to be out and about during this traveling period, as they risk accidentally running into or attracting an evil or wandering spirit, essentially getting caught in the spiritual crossfire.
This is the definitive aha moment that retroactively explains the bus's complete isolation.
It is.
Zhu hadn't been lucky at all. He had been dangerously ignorant of this essential cultural taboo. The bus was empty, not because of a scheduling fluke, but because virtually every local person knew better than to travel on that specific high-risk day.
Zhu's private, luxurious ride was, in fact, the biggest red flag of all, and he missed it entirely.
The sheer depth of the cultural knowledge that he, perhaps being a younger, more modern individual, had neglected to observe is what put him directly in the path of this spiritual migration.
And that realization shifts Zhu's fear entirely. It's no longer about a bad bus ride. It's about existential danger and a violation of a powerful taboo.
Right.
The ghost arm, the constant whispering, the physical sounds of occupation. He worries that these were definitive, powerful signs he had made intimate contact with an evil or angry spirit, and that he may now be personally haunted or in immediate danger because he violated this essential cultural law of traveling on September 4th.
He realizes he is not just safe, he is spiritually contaminated.
This deepens the trauma. It moves from an isolated event to a permanent spiritual threat. He had encountered a spiritual contagion, and he now needed a way to clean himself of it. And that realization immediately nullifies the promise he made to the bus driver.
So now, facing what he perceives as this profound personal and spiritual threat, Zhu immediately discards the promise he made to the bus driver about ruining his business.
Of course.
Right.
Protecting his life and his soul is clearly secondary to protecting the driver's job. He consults his friend about the haunting and the damning photo.
And the friend offers advice rooted deeply in traditional or folk beliefs, advice that speaks to the philosophical mechanism of handling spiritual bad luck.
The solution for spiritual contamination, especially something documented like the ghost arm, is to dilute it.
That's a fascinating concept. Can you explain that mechanism of dilution to our listener?
Essentially, a powerful spirit or concentrated bad luck gains power through focus and isolation. By sharing the story and the evidence with the world, by broadcasting it, you reduce the entity's focus and power over you as an individual.
You scatter the negative energy.
You scatter it among a wider, potentially global population. It's a spiritual equivalent of the old chain emails. Pass it on or face the consequences alone. And Zhu decided he did not want to hold that singular focus of power.
So Zhu posts the photo to Facebook for max dilution, hoping to disperse the spiritual contagion among his friends and network.
And it works immediately in terms of visibility. It goes massively viral, seen by millions of people globally, showing the clear image of the ghost arm reaching down from the ceiling.
But the viral result has the inverse effect on Zhu's psychological state.
Completely. Instead of feeling safer or relieved that the bad luck was dispersed, the public reaction was one of amplified terror.
People began messaging Zhu not with comfort, but with grave warnings.
Yeah, saying that he was now in profound danger, that the entity would definitely come after him for exposing it, and that he needed to seek real, immediate spiritual help.
So this external validation of his deepest fear just intensified his sense of terror far more than the original bus ride itself.
Instead of delusion, he felt amplification and a sense of spiritual pursuit. He was suddenly targeted by millions, not just one ghost.
So Zhu reacts by deleting the photo, setting his Facebook profile to private, and just retreating completely.
He desperately hopes that if he minimizes his digital and physical footprint, the danger will simply pass. He spent a few days telling himself he was fine, that the ghost had been diluted enough, and that it was all over.
And then, exactly 1 week after he had stepped off that haunted bus, September 11, 2017, the entire narrative comes crashing down in a devastating official manner. Zhu is scrolling through news headlines and sees a horrifying story about a major highway accident near where he lived, eerily close to the final leg of his own journey.
It was a catastrophic, single-vehicle wreck. 6 people were killed and 11 were seriously injured. A devastating tragedy. And as Zeus scrolled down the article, he sees a photo of the man charged with the accident. The driver, covered in blood, looking totally haggard and in shock.
The terrifying recognition is immediate. It was the exact same bus driver who had demanded his silence.
And further investigative details confirmed the sheer, awful coincidence. The vehicle that crashed was the exact same bus on the exact same long-haul route Zhu had taken 1 week earlier.
If his trip had been scheduled just 7 days later, Zhu would have almost certainly been one of the passengers or one of the fatalities.
The initial official narrative provided the immediate, rational explanation. The driver was charged and subsequently jailed for negligence, which was cited as the cause of the fatal crash.
Right. The bus veered inexplicably off the highway and collided. That is the legal, rational conclusion that provides closure for the public.
But our source material highlights a critical wrinkle that throws the entire negligence narrative back into question. The existence of video footage taken from inside the bus in the final 30 seconds before the crash.
And this footage is the final piece of evidence linking the haunting to the tragedy.
Let's analyze this footage forensically. For the first portion of those 30 seconds, the driver appears perfectly normal, focused, operating the vehicle correctly. He's a professional driver.
Then, something specific catches his attention.
And it's crucial that the footage confirms the distraction comes from inside the bus, not an external factor like a bird or another car.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can see the change in his demeanor. He notices whatever this entity or object is off to the side, inside the cabin. He turns his head and is clearly looking, trying to focus on something.
And the footage escalates beyond mere observation, suggesting physical engagement. What does the driver do next?
He starts reaching down, indicating he is actively interacting with something in the bus. This movement suggests he is either grabbing a dropped item, swatting at something, or trying to manage a sudden fault on the dashboard.
But the key is that whatever it is entirely involving and demanding of his focus.
And as he gets increasingly involved with this unseen element, he loses attention on the road and the bus crashes.
It's the tragic, delayed echo of Zhu's own fear. Zhu was terrified of distracting the driver and causing a crash 1 week earlier. Now, the driver himself is fatally distracted by something internal.
But what could it have been if we try to maintain a purely rational viewpoint? Rationally, he could have dropped a water bottle, or perhaps a sudden mechanical fault light came on that required him to physically reach down to a lower panel. However, the intensity of his focus, turning his head completely away from the road, suggests something sudden and unexpected, something that demanded his full, immediate attention rather than a routine check.
And did the driver ever provide any testimony about what happened in those final moments before the wreck? Did he ever explain what he was interacting with, or if it was the entity he knew was on his bus?
No. No public testimony was ever given by the driver explaining those final, critical moments. All we are left with is the convergence of evidence. The official negligence report, the video footage showing a desperate interaction with an unseen force inside the vehicle, Zhu's terrifying encounter 1 week earlier, and that compelling, horrifying photograph of the ghost arm reaching down from the ceiling. The driver took his final explanation with him.
So, what does this all mean for us? We are left with this powerful synthesis of two competing possibilities, and you, the listener, you have to be the ultimate judge of which narrative holds the most weight.
Possibility 1. The purely rational series of coincidences. Zhu's isolation and exhaustion caused sensory and psychological distress, leading him to misinterpret shadows, reflections, and sounds.
And the driver.
The driver, overworked, stressed, and perhaps cynical about his job, suffered a massive, fatal moment of human error, distraction, and negligence 1 week later. The photo is an elaborate, if well-documented, distortion that Zhu's terrified mind readily accepted as proof.
Okay, that's one door. What's behind door number 2?
Possibility two, a documented spiritual contagion. The ghost arm photo is real. The whispering and creaking seats were definitive, physical proof that the bus was infested with spirits who emerged specifically during the Hungry Ghost Festival travel day.
Zhu was indeed contaminating.
Yes, the driver's final moments weren't negligence, but a fatal interaction with the entity that Zhu had encountered. The ghost was demanding attention, or perhaps reclaiming its territory.
The facts allow both interpretations to stand, but the narrative linking the haunting to the tragedy is incredibly strong.
It is. The driver seemed aware of the supernatural presence routine, as it may have been for him, and ultimately it was something internal, unseen, and demanding his full attention that caused the fatal swerve and the horrific loss of life.
It is genuinely horrifying, the sheer proximity to that event. Zhu was, by the smallest margin of time and circumstance, a single week, spared from being one of those 6 fatalities. And that brings us back to the moment of decision.
And this leads us to the final provocative thought, something for you to consider long after this deep dive ends. Zhu sought to dilute the evil spirit's power by sharing the photograph globally, essentially releasing the spiritual contagion onto the internet to save himself.
He broke his promise to the driver out of self-preservation.
Right. So, given the driver's final moments, engaged in a desperate interaction with an unseen force, what power did that shared viral photo have in potentially transferring or attracting the entity that Zhu had sought to dilute, causing it to return violently to the bus and claim the driver exactly 1 week later? Something to think about the next time you decide to document the strange, dark, and mysterious and set it loose on the world.